That leaves 85% of the market that is out there trying to figure it out on their own, DIYers.
Right.
And so I knew this through soccer. I'm sure you knew this through tennis, that we can only learn so much without having a coach, without having some feedback, whether it's self-captured video. So we really wanted to help point the company not just to the teaching pros, but also to those consumers who are out there searching YouTube and Instagram, like mad every day, and trying to find a succinct way for them to gather data. So we know that they want to practice, and we also know that they do go play these games called golf. And how do you track your stats around the golf course without having to clip something on your club, without having to tap a phone every time? And so what we're building and where we're going is taking all that data of how you play the game, turning it into actionable practice, and then saying, if you want to see a pro, that's awesome. And if you don't, rinse, wash, repeat again. So it's been super exciting to kind of look at and maybe change the way we learn a sport. And baseball is very similar, golf and baseball the same, that we can take that data and make it actionable. And that's the key, right? There's a lot of data out there, but when you can make it actionable and say, here's how you go practice. So you're not just banging 100 golf balls or getting in the cage and taking 60 rips at a baseball. Here are the things you want to work on, and they're specific to how you played the game the day or week before. Suddenly the learning happens very quick. So it's been exciting.
I love that idea. And I think that anything that can utilize your own motion, your own, and perhaps kind of like how you're doing things, and you can capture that and then overlay that with a learning process. I mean, it almost could be applied to any sport, obviously,
That's right.
but even many other things. Even yoga. I feel like if being dragged to a yoga class by my wife and realizing I could never do this stuff, and I probably need your product applied to that as well. But that's great. I would say that video has had such an impact on sports in general, and clearly you guys are one of the building blocks of that broader movement. How would you say you think it's going to evolve over the next year? I'm just curious to kind of see what are the main trends in this space.
It's interesting. So given I'll take my personal interest on this, which is I'm typically the salmon swimming upstream. So I'm not follow the herd over to one side of the school of fish. I truly believe, and you might know this as a tennis player or feel this anyway, that video, we know that somewhere between 65 and 70%, 72% of people are visual learners. I also know, having played pro soccer at a high level, that anytime someone put markers, a vest, some other device on my body, especially if it was hardwired to a computer, my actions were different than I was doing it in real life, right? Or real game situation. So when I look at this, there are two camps of thought. One is, let's put a lot of markers on people so we could tell with 85 to 90% accuracy how the golf swing is, how the baseball swing, what does the tennis forehand look like? And it's you can create that avatar with pretty good consistency. The challenge is, are you really playing and acting in the game as though you would? And my answer is no, I don't think it is. So I can live with 90% of non-markered video capture technology that still creates an avatar, right? Where do your muscular skeletal system, how does it move? Oh, your elbow's out in front of your arm in a tennis, in a forehand. Is that the correct move or not? And how do we fix that? Well, I can't always see that in video, but I can with the help of vision technology through AI. So I think that's where the next year is honestly going to go, is how do we use video with the ability to monitor where our hinge points are in our body, and then apply that to what is actually happening in the sport we play, insert sport here, right? Baseball, golf, tennis, whatever. That to me is when it becomes actionable, because then we can see if there's corrective action. If you go hit a bunch of backhands, and then either through learning on our network, right? We call it V1 TV, you see a bunch of content and you fix that through repetition. The next time you put yourself on video and look at AI, you'd say, wow, my elbow is back, or my shoulders are more level or more tilted, whatever you're looking for. There's corrective action. And then ultimately, we're about a year away from launching this. But through that platform, it should then be, you think about Pandora or Spotify, it starts to learn what music you like, right? You don't get would you like to play last month's favorite list? Well, you didn't favorite everything. It just knew that you played it. If you're like me out on a golf course, I'm playing a lot of really, I'll say, easy to listen to music. I'm not playing hard rock like I would when I'm in the gym at CrossFit. So oddly enough, it knows that about me. And I think the same thing goes in sports learning. When it starts to learn that the golf ball is in V1 games, seeing it go right, it's looking at my practice swing, it's looking at how my body is moving, it's saying all those things for right-handed golfer, tilting this direction. We're going to serve you some content, much like songs, that would all, you look whatever, go, oh my gosh, how to fix a slice. That's exactly what I was thinking. Well, it's not, earth shattering, but it is in the world of sport, where I'm not out there just searching everything.
So I feel like this product would have been what I needed to be utilizing during the pandemic, I'd just be curious how 2020 shaped out for you guys. Did you find a lot of people trying to use video at home? I mean, we couldn't go anywhere, so it seems like the only thing we could have been doing.
Yeah, I will, my smile is guarded, right? Because it's hard to use the pandemic and not understand all the negative impact that has happened around the planet with that. However, but at the same time, through challenges, we see innovation. That's been over the course of history. There's always been like that. Whether that's an awakening, like to your point, I've got nothing but time on my hand and I'm not going to work every day. Maybe I can go practice my golf swing in the backyard or my tennis or baseball or whatever. But then we're doing a lot of this, right? The number of Zoom meetings we had and GoTo meetings and Google Meets and suddenly changed that golf pros were saying, hey, maybe I can give you a lesson because you can't come into my studio today. Well, gosh, that is a technology we've had in place for 8 years and we've been screaming from the rooftops about it. Oddly enough, the pandemic put it front and center and said, this actually is a necessity, not a nice to have. So it changed things for us. And, not to go into a next topic, but I do say that as leaders of our companies, it's really important. What we say at V1 is all boats have risen with the tide. Golf is up, sports activity is up, people's willingness to try new things, including video, is up, but that will also settle. And if we believe that all the success is due to us and we're pounding our chest saying, oh, awesome, at V1, we're so great, and we're not paying attention to what that settling looks like, then we're missing the opportunity. So the spike's been great. It has brought us front and center. But for us, really, it's about, hey, that's awesome. And it's about what's next. When we meaningfully settle into the market, let's not be caught by surprise, right? Because when the tide goes out, who doesn't have a bathing suit on, and we're not going to be one of them, hopefully.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You got to be planning for the next elements for sure. But I would be curious, just as a company operating through the pandemic, how did it change things for the company and the culture and kind of how you ran the day to day?
Boy, I mean, there's a couple of topics that are shows in themselves. At
Yeah.
53, I'd love to tell you that I was fully embracing the work from home environment and, couldn't wait to see everybody log in at home. I'd be lying through my teeth if that wasn't true. We spend a lot of time on our culture. Sort of John Gordon and John Maxwell and Collins and a lot of Lencioni, a lot of these guys, it's really about linking arms with the people and creating good conflict that's not resolved over a screen, resolved over a cup of coffee or maybe a beer after work.
Yeah.
We love that. And we know that that's how it works in sport, right? In sport, you may argue with a teammate, you may be arguing with, a coach and having this good banter, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
But then what happens when you step outside the lines? Because if that's all you are as a person, then it's a short-lived success. But when you can get across the line, whether it's a tennis court or a soccer field, and then link arms with somebody and say, but we're all fighting together for the same thing, right? Much like you would with a doubles partner, as we would with our teams. So my long answer to that is I love the camaraderie we have in the office. And it was a really big challenge for me personally as a leader to embrace that. On the flip side, our team was unbelievable. Team Zoom calls twice a week. We got 35 people sitting in little tiny squares, but making small groups and breakouts. And how are they getting together on their weekly level 10? We call them level 10 meetings, all on Zoom. Everybody in screen, no black screens with mute on. I didn't set those rules. That was our team. And when we started to come back to work, it was, hey, do we abandon this? And universally it was, no, we don't. We still keep this cadence going. So hats off to the team for making that happen, because they're teaching this old dog that there are definitely some new ways to get it done. And, it's just been exciting to see just the personal innovation that's happening. It's been great.
Yeah, I think that kind of almost like a personal challenge or conflict that you had is almost what everyone felt, right? I mean, the human connection that everyone lost during this pandemic was really, it was such a powerful feeling. But that being said, a lot of businesses such as yours succeeded and grew a lot during the pandemic, and as they were operating in a virtual or at least partially virtual structure. So it's been a fascinating fascinating moment. I'm curious now that things are improving. Is there a rush back to the office, or is it back to the old way, or really, do you think the new ways will stick around?
God, that's a great question, because for me, it's a desire to go back to the old way. And I do not embrace the word hybrid, because I think just combining two other ways isn't really hybrid. What we're literally been talking about this last week and a half here is Michigan has then said, really about the middle of June, we can start to come back to work in an official capacity in the state. There is a new way that work is going to happen. And so for us, we're in that discovery process that it won't be like it was. We know that for sure. It's reshaped how our environment is here physically. And then how have our teams worked really well together in a remote setting? And then what's been missing from the personal get-togethers? And that's just discovery for us right now. So we're under the gun. We've involved a person from every team to then be the voice of their team that, bring its best idea wins. So let's really come up with what works for us.
It's so fascinating what you just outlined about your corporate culture, because I would say I haven't heard that before, but I think it's quite a powerful construct that you're outlining, which is the importance of it's all the way I would have described it perhaps would be that it's the conflict that you have within a family, but like when that family looks out towards the world, they show their unity, but inside the family, there has to be that tension because that's what makes you better, right? It's just, and that's that, but how you replicate that in a way that's healthy in a virtual environment. Wow, that's tough. It's so much easier to do it, when you're face to face. No, I think that's a really interesting challenge.
It is. So, one of the things we do, I'm part of the hiring process for every one of the people we hire. Have done that in my other companies, built, sold, merged, whatever, because I want whoever joins our team to hear from me what the culture is going to be about and ask any questions they want. And I talk about conflict. And as you'd imagine, there's some really good candidates we get when I talk about what I think conflict is. The next phone call that whatever department's hiring them is thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And I get the, hey, thanks a lot, jerk. I mean, we had this guy was a 9 out of 10. I go, I know, but when he or she was going to get here and be in this environment, and conflict isn't fighting, right? Conflict isn't without resolution. But I do know as an athlete, high performing teams work best when I can say, someone standing in front of the net, just give me the effing ball. Yeah. I'm not going to say, hey, Bant, if you wouldn't mind, if you get around it, if you kind of pick your head up, and I'm kind of wide open over here, but, take your time. And as long as it's not in position to you and you're not trying to get another, goal yourself, if you could pass me the ball, that doesn't work, right? It's give me the ball.
Exactly.
You jump in front of your tennis partner in doubles and you crush it over the net for the point. He doesn't say, I wish I could have done that. So we know that conflict comes with pace and meaning, and again, following our North Star. So if we do have the conflict, but we're under the idea that best idea wins, it's not a unanimous yes. We never get to unanimous yes. I want contrarian thinking. It is very hard to replicate because even you and I are just talking here. If we had two other people that you said, you've got to talk for 15 seconds in our next 10 minutes, it's disruptive. It just is. In a real environment, you could read someone's body language and if they're sitting up in their chair, looking like they're ready to talk, we'd take a pause and we'd defer to them, right? That doesn't happen in Zoom or GoTo, whatever. So that part we are looking forward to, that really, when we're around a table, we're going to have some meaningful stuff, but it's rooted in our culture. So people know that that's healthy. Leaving conflict unresolved, very, very unhealthy. So there has to be this balance.
I'm listening to it and I think it's just a brilliant point to raise. I think that it's a very healthy thing for companies to be able to have. I think it's also kind of one of the things that when you hear about a lot of companies talk today, they're almost anti-conflict, right? And I think I think you've raised a great point, which is it's true when you grow up and you're playing in something like a competitive sport, that conflict makes you champions. That is what makes the team better, right? It is so critical to have that, right? And it drives you crazy at times, but it's so important, right? It's so critical. So I think it's clearly what's made the team that you have better. So tell me, as you're looking forward for the next year, what excites you? What's promising? Where are the golden shoots?
Man, me personally, I think it's leveraging data. I know that one is definitely, sort of an overused hot topic right now. We are very specific about data, and I said this before, it has got to be actionable. So data for data collection's sake, okay to do if we're going to park it and we say we might need that later. I'm actually a big fan of that. We don't even know what we're going to do with this thing yet. Cool, collect it and park it. But if we can't take action on it, and I think my wife would appreciate this, or she might throttle me later, but if I can't, we call it the Sports Center version. If I can't explain it to Denise in 22 seconds, which is my Sports Center version, if she gives me the like deer in the headlights look or the tilted head, it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Not actionable, right? It has got to be so simple, right? That my wife plays a little bit of golf. She's actually a really good tennis player, never played softball or baseball in her life. If I can't explain it to her and say, hey, if you had a baseball bat in your hand and you're going to go do this, she goes, oh, but I get that. I think we're on the right track. So using data through video, through inputs, whatever it is, taking all that mass, and if we can distill it down to something actionable, I say for our team and our culture, we're on the right path. If we cannot take action, it's not part of our North Star, which we're empowering coaches to be their best with their athletes. There's two sides to that. We're connecting those two pieces. So if it's not actionable, what use is it to a coach? And if I don't get better as an athlete, what use is it to me? That's our North Star. Park it, good idea, we'll figure it out later. But if you can take action on it, next 12 months, let's go. It's going to be awesome.
I hear you. The challenge I think on the data front is that a lot of times people just collect endless reams of data, and the collection of the data seems to be almost like the goal in and of itself. And it does require someone to say, well, what is actually useful here?
Well, that's the thinking. Yeah. You're right on, because the market is telling us go collect data, right? That's the currency of tomorrow. Forget crypto for a second, right? It's the currency of tomorrow. I'm like, that would be like somebody going collect stones in your backyard. One of them might be a diamond. That is actual currency. I got you. But one of them could be a Petoskey stone river rock that has less weight than its actual physical weight. It's pretty. What the heck do you do with it? So yeah, we have to be mindful that just because the market says go collect data, it's really important. We have to come into our culture and say, but is it important to the people? Is it important to our customers? Because it might be like cool and sexy to us, but if a coach and an athlete can't use it, honestly, like, who cares?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Bryan, it's been great talking to you. We've been talking to Bryan Finnerty today. He is the CEO and founder of many companies. We've been speaking mostly about his role as CEO at V1 Sports. Next time we'll have to talk about some of the other operations. He's also the investor behind the Opportunity Seed Capital Group, which plays a big role in supporting sports endeavors, as well as driving the Opportunity Seed Foundation. Bryan, it's been an incredible conversation. I think that there's some key learnings here on some of the challenges that we have to face in terms of what we can do physically together as a business, what we can't, and then also the opportunities that your company presents in delivering very powerful data-driven video solutions in the sports space, which seem almost endless. I never want to use your product for my own golf stroke, because that would be a frightening exercise. But but for everything else, I think it's great. Bryan, if anyone wanted to find out more about what V1 and some of your other operations are up to, where should they go?
Yeah, a couple of places. So V1 is easy. It's V1, like Victory One, V1sports.com. Very simple. You can find me there too. Or opportunityseed.com is where you can find me and find out more about the foundation, how we've put together a plan for others that want to use good in business to do great in community. You'll see a little tag for Mission 321 and how you break 3% of your profits down every year, give your employees 2% of their time back every year, and 1% of our giving, both time and money, into our local communities. It's kind of a cool little recipe. So yeah, Bryan at v1sports.com or Bryan at opportunityseed.com. They can find me there personally and email too.
Excellent. Well, listen, Bryan, thank you so much for the time today. Bryan Finnerty is the CEO of V1 Sports, the Chief Giving Officer of the Opportunity Seed Foundation, the CEO and Managing Partner of Galway Bay Apparel, and many, many other operations. Bryan, thank you so much for your time. Bryan's been our guest today on UNCAGED, which is a program that provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Thanks, Bryan.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.